what will constitute success? Let me offer at least one possible suggestion. In 2023, the Wall Street Journal published the findings of a poll asking Americans, what do you most value? What are the things you value most? This is a poll they did 25 years ago in 2008? No, sorry, 1998. 1998, 25 years. 25 years ago, then, 27 years ago now, the top values were patriotism at 75%. The next highest value was family at 73%. The next highest value was religion, God. And the next highest value was community. These were all well above 50%. And then
what year? Tell me.
1998. Everything was falling apart in 98. Remember how terrible things were in 98? But that was the view. And the lowest of the values at below 50%, somewhere around 23, 30%, was money. Now, guess what happened? In 2023, they redo this poll, they show the findings, and it's almost completely reversed. All of these values, except for money, are now below 50%. Americans no longer value patriotism, religion, family, community. And when you lose all of those things, the only thing you have left is money.
Well, what else are you going to? Environmentalism.
Yeah, okay, but these are the things they valued most, and they all fell. They all fell dramatically. So, what would it take? What if we could begin to? So, 25 years, a lot of things happen. Part of it is government, part of it's culture, media, and so forth. But what could we begin to do at the level of the public order, the political order? So, whatever we're spinning off in the Department of Education, what are they doing to promote these values, to restore these values to the heart and center of what it is to be an American, what it is to be a good human being? And the remarkable thing is, the more likely that you were someone who had and came from a family who had children, the higher you scored on patriotism, religion, family, and community. So are we helping people get married? Are we helping them have children? Because if you want to have conservatives in the future, that's going to be your base.
So I have, to me, this is kind of it's a little bit too much of the sort of the William Bennett theory of how we restore the country, because the William Bennett theory of the country is, this is, America, the famous John Adams quote, our Constitution is made only for a moral and religious people, And so it's like, well, if you think that the most sacred thing about America is this piece of paper from the 18th century, then obviously virtues are good. You need to restore our virtues so that we can continue to work with a piece of paper from the 18th century. I have a somewhat different take. I think that actually the first thing that has to change is the political order, and I think that it is necessary for those virtues to be recreated from a political basis, not for the purpose of, restoring our politics through restoring the virtues, but the virtues are actually good. So let's take the Department of Education. Take the Department of Education here as a vision. I'm like, all right, here's this thing that is diametrically opposed to the American vision of local Norman Rockwell school boards, guys standing up, I believe our children should study whatever. That's the sort of the old American way. The new American way is, Common Core. We get some guy from the Gates Foundation to do it. We have all these, strings leading up to the Department of Education from every local school in America, every university, every whatever. And so for me, the question, and I hope Patrick will sympathize with me for a little bit, is whether we do the libertarian thing, downsize the Department of Education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or whether we're like, well, all of these systems are moribund. These local authorities barely matter. The schools in Utah are teaching transgender theory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, we have this thing that was sort of modeled on a French or Prussian bureaucracy earlier in the 20th century. It was always said that in France, the Minister of Education knew, from his watch what all the students in France are studying at that time. I'm like, we have a public school system that absolutely stinks, that needs to be reconstituted from top to bottom in every possible way. For me, this is the job of the Department of Education. And I'm basically like, yeah, I would basically use the Department of Education to essentially revolutionize education in America in every single public school. And I would basically get to 4 years later, my goal would be, you're going to have to know Greek and Latin to get into Harvard.
But Curtis, could I draw you back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation about having there being a variety of different Americas or different types of Americas? To which of them would this
So I think
apply?
the most important America is very much the elite America. And so actually reforming the elite is the most important thing to reform, because people follow, those visions. And
I read a book about that.
You can say to elite Americans, hey, you had to jump through these ridiculous hoops to get into Harvard last year, but now if you're a freshman in high school, you'd better be starting on your Greek, because you're going to need that for the Harvard entrance exam in 4 years. And
the one that John and Samuel took.
Yeah, the one that John and Samuel took.
But this, I think this underscores, in my response to Johnny's question, I actually think that the aim should be to make America more one thing, and it would be the thing that I would say, as a conservative, it should reflect certain kinds of values and certain kinds of virtues.
Thank you for watching this clip of Project Cosmos. If you want to see the full video, the link is in the description below.